If you've been running Google Ads for a while, you've likely come across this limited by budget alert. It's an extremely common but often misunderstood campaign status. So in this video, I'm going to give you practical advice on how to resolve this issue, both strategically and tactically, even if you don't have the budget to spend more. I decided to make this video because if you follow Google's budget recommendations, you might actually be doing yourself a disservice, since Google Ads, just like every advertising platform, has a clear conflict of interest. On one hand, they want to keep you on their platform and keep you happy as an advertiser, but on the other hand, they want to squeeze as much money out of you as possible. They frequently use alerts, notifications, and recommendations as upsells to make you spend more. So in this video, I wanted to focus on what you can do without having to spend more. And the tips I will share with you today aren't just theory, they are backed by actual practices and real-life tests we've done at Roy Monks, the performance marketing agency where I work. We actively manage dozens of Google Ads accounts and deal with these statuses every day, so we know exactly what works and what doesn't. So let's begin. First of all, what does limited by budget status even mean? Well, according to Google, limited by budget is a campaign status indicating that your average daily budget is lower than the recommended amount to capture all available impressions and clicks for your current settings, meaning for your current keywords, targeting, bids, and so on. In other words, there is your actual campaign budget that you assigned to your campaign, and there is a certain recommended spending amount that Google believes is going to maximize your campaign goals. And if your budget is less than this recommended amount, this is when you're going to see this limited by budget status. Okay, but how does Google Ads actually determine this recommended amount, and why should you care about this recommendation at all? Well, there are several factors that impact how much Google will recommend you spend, but the most important one is your bidding strategy. And this is why I think it's easiest to understand this topic by breaking it down by bidding strategy. So first, when you're using maximize conversions or maximize conversion value bidding strategies, and you see the limited by budget status, Google is trying to tell you, and this is a direct quote from one of our Google Ads account reps, you are missing out on conversions or revenue as the market has more high-value demand that your budget can't accommodate. But there is a catch here. Google Ads defines high value based on your current campaign return, meaning your current conversion value to cost or your current cost per conversion. And by current, they mean last 30 days and last 14 days. So what Google AI is really saying is, we believe we can get you more conversions at a similar return to what you're getting now. So the question for you then becomes whether you are happy with the return that this campaign is currently generating, and whether you're willing to spend more under this return. If you are happy with your ROI and want to spend more, obviously you can just increase your budget. But if you're not willing to spend more, there are a few things that you can do. First, the easiest thing you can do is just ignore it, because with maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, your campaign's goal is to essentially spend your budget in full while maximizing results. And this is the behavior you should expect regardless of your campaign return and whether your campaign gets this limited by budget status. It's not even a limitation, technically speaking. With maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, this status is really just an upsell. Google telling you that there are more opportunities on the market at your current ROAS or CPA. So limited by budget won't hurt your performance in this case. This is why you will usually see this status in yellow color for these specific bidding strategies. You can even see how much more impression share you're missing out on because of your budget by adding another column to your campaign view called Search Lost Impression Share Budget. This column estimates how often your ad didn't show on search due to your low budget. If this percentage is low, like a couple of percent, then you can sleep calmly. This is a minor issue. You don't have to worry about it at all. But if this percentage is huge, like 30, 40, or 50%, or even higher, then you might want to reconsider your strategy. But obviously, if you don't have more budget to spend, you don't have to. Second, you can pause underperforming ad groups, keywords, asset groups, or product types and free up some of your advertising budget this way. And by underperforming here, I mean the ones that have spent a meaningful amount, yet have relatively low conversion value to cost or relatively high cost per conversion. This will improve your campaign effectiveness, and in most cases, this will naturally reduce your spending. But these types of optimizations are something you should be doing regularly already. So if you haven't, take this limited by budget as a signal that you should spend some time on campaign optimization. Here's a video I made on how to optimize your search campaigns. I will leave the link for it in the description. One important nuance and an agency-backed tip I want you to keep in mind here is that when you're using a campaign with maximized conversions or maximized conversion value bidding, Google is not going to distribute your spending evenly throughout the days. This is something you need to be aware of so you don't freak out when you see this happening in your account. In fact, Google will try to spend more on days when you're more likely to get conversions. So you might see some volatility, but there are still limits. First, your daily spending limit is 2 times your average daily budget for most campaigns on any particular day. Second, your monthly spending limit is 30.4 times your average daily budget in any particular month. When your daily or monthly spending exceeds these limits, Google will actually refund you the difference. On the other hand, when you get this status for a campaign using a bidding target like Target ROAS or Target CPA, your approach should be completely different. In this case, Google is telling you that you're missing conversions because your budget cap is preventing you from buying all clicks that meet your efficiency target. This sounds really similar to how limited by budget status works for maximized conversions or maximized conversion value bidding strategies. But when it comes to Target ROAS or Target CPA, there is one key difference, which lies in the nature of the bidding strategy itself. Because Target ROAS, just like Target CPA, are designed to get you as much revenue or as many conversions as possible, as long as the campaign is meeting your ROAS or your CPA targets. These bidding strategies are not designed to take your budget into account. So, for example, when your campaign is overachieving, meaning that its return is better than your target, Google will rightly believe that there are more possible conversions out there on the market which meet your efficiency target. And naturally, Google is going to start spending more. As a result, if your budgets aren't sufficiently high, you are going to get the limited by budget status. And in this case, the limited by budget status will appear in red color. And it will essentially mean that Google is forcefully suppressing your campaign and its reach in order to prevent your budgets from depleting too quickly. And this will hurt your performance over time. We've seen it in the accounts we manage again and again, so it's best to avoid the limited by budget status in this case. So if you come across this campaign status when using Target ROAS or Target CPA, here's what I recommend. Regardless of whether you're willing to spend more or not, raise your budget to Google's recommended level and adjust your bidding targets to control your spending instead. For example, if your campaign is limited by budget, let's say it was spending $100 per day and now Google recommends you spend $150 per day, raise the budget to what Google recommends while simultaneously also raise your target ROAS, for example, from 500% to 550%, or lower your target CPA for example, from $50 to $45 or even $40. Essentially, with this, you're telling Google, I don't want this campaign to be limited by budget, but if there is really that much demand out there at my current ROAS or my current CPA, I want you to deliver me even better results, meaning higher ROAS or lower CPA. The bidding target change forces Google to be more selective with your spending and to only bid in the highest value auctions. At the same time, the campaign is not being artificially suppressed by Google because of budget limitations. And as a result, even though you've raised your budget, you're not necessarily spending more, but you're driving a better return from your campaign. In fact, a big agency tip I can share with you here is to avoid limited by budget status under Target ROAS or Target CPA strategies at all times. It's going to artificially limit the algorithm and limit your campaign reach, and over time, this will hurt your campaign performance compared to if your campaigns were not limited. Another agency tip I can share with you is that under this bidding strategy, you can predict when your campaign is about to get limited by budget, because under Target ROAS or Target CPA, as well as under other target-specific bidding strategies, when your recent results are really good, in fact, so good that they exceed your bidding target, your spending is going to naturally start going up. And if your budget isn't sufficiently high, you're going to get the limited by budget status. So always try to keep your budget sufficient for your current bidding target, and if possible, even add a 20 to 30% buffer on top to allow Google Ads to go out and capture new opportunities when they appear in the market, as long as they meet your ROAS or your CPA targets. Also, if you're working with a small amount of conversions, meaning under 30 conversions every 30 days, keep in mind that under these bidding strategies, your performance and, as a result, your spending can be volatile. This volatility can cause the limited by budget status to appear just because of those constant fluctuations. So make sure you're getting at least 15 or even better, at least 30 conversions per month per campaign when using bidding targets to help you keep your daily spending more stable. Otherwise, you might run into limited by budget status a little more often than you'd like. Now, when it comes to campaign optimizations, like pausing underperforming ad groups or keywords, they are not a good idea when it comes to resolving limited by budget status under these bidding strategies, because when you make these optimizations, you improve the effectiveness of your campaign, but that only widens the gap between your actual results and your bidding target, which creates further upward pressure on your campaign spending and causes even more limitations. In fact, when it comes to Target ROAS and Target CPA, this issue must be resolved entirely with your budget and your bidding. Your campaign optimizations, your ad rank improvements, quality score optimizations, and so on should be a separate recurring activity. Your optimizations and campaign improvements should drive your bidding and your budget, not the other way around. Limited by budget should also not be the reason for you to suddenly change your campaign structure, as you're going to reset all your learning. And you will get this status again eventually if you chase short-term fixes without understanding the underlying logic. Choose the right campaign structure for your budget and your business first, stick to it, and refine it over time with structured, planned tests. I recently made a video on the best Google Ads campaign structure. I highly recommend you watch it. And then, after you've set up your account within this structure, manage your campaign budgets and your bidding within this structure. Don't let Google's budget notifications drive your strategy. In addition to limited by budget, there are other limited by campaign statuses that you should know about. You'll come across them pretty frequently. Limited by budget is just the most common one. First, limited by target. This appears when you're using Target CPA or Target ROAS bidding strategies. It means that there are conversions out there, but Google can't enter those auctions because the anticipated return doesn't meet your target. Essentially, it's telling you that Google has maxed out its auction coverage for your current target, I suggest ignoring this status unless you're prepared to accept a lower return on investment. And if you are, you can obviously adjust your bidding target. Second, limited by bid strategy. This is often triggered when you've set a maximum CPC limit under smart bidding strategy that's too low to enter all the auctions Google AI believes will drive value for your campaign. In this case, I'd recommend easing your maximum CPC bid caps and, in general, shifting your focus towards conversions rather than clicks. Third, limited by budget soon. According to Google, this appears when the budget simulator detects that some of your campaigns may have budget constraints due to an expected increase in future traffic, which could cause a 5% or more decrease in weekly traffic at your current budget. This isn't a very common one, but if you come across it, I'd suggest either tweaking your bidding target to prevent the expected increase in spending if you're not prepared to spend more, or adjusting your budget in advance. Finally, eligible limited or limited by policy. This appears when there are policy issues in your campaign or when elements of your campaign are misconfigured. It means your ads are effectively approved to run, but they are limited in where and when they can appear. So if you're seeing this, resolve any policy issues if possible, or fix the misconfiguration in your campaign. I hope this video answered your questions and you found it valuable. If you need any help with your Google Ads campaigns or your digital marketing strategy more broadly, check out Roy Monk's. I will leave their links in the description. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. These videos take a lot of work, so if you found this one valuable, please support it with a like, a comment, and a subscription. Here are a couple of really good videos I think you might find helpful. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.